If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. And you are about to see predictive programming like you've never seen it before. Well, maybe you have. I mean, there's been so many movies and TV shows that have shown us exactly how everything's going to unfold. But this is almost laughable from a television show in the UK called Utopia. Now, before I get into it, I want to thank a subscriber on my website, Exodus777, who found this and shared this with me. And everybody else on the website. I pinned the post so everybody could see it. But I still felt everyone on YouTube needed to see this if they're not members of the website. But again, you can become a member at acallforanuprising.com, and I recommend you do. Currently uploading a video on something called Martinsville, which most people may not be familiar with, but it's very similar to McMartin. Just instead of involving a nursery so much, well, it does involve a babysitting practice, but it's connected to police officers and just another one of those things that they dismiss. So that's uploaded over there. Stuff you can't upload and talk about on YouTube anymore, as well as the stuff going on in the world with the movements that we're seeing and all the riots and everything. So that's over on the website. So again, I want to thank a subscriber over there for sharing this video. This television show is called Utopia. You can see in the logo, they actually put an eyeball in there. I mean, that must be a huge coincidence, right? The directors also were failed optometrists who love eyeballs. Well, I won't beat around the bush. Take a look for yourself and then come back and listen afterwards, because there's a lot to take out of the predictive programming you'll see in this.
What if I were to tell you that I've been on the run? Chased by a shadowy organisation who wanted to kill me, who control governments, and whose objective was to sterilise the world. It's all over now.
They're starting again.
As of today, we are making the vaccine, and this will happen at an unprecedented pace.
They're going to do a Nagasaki with a flu virus.
I want you back.
I've come to find you.
Why?
This is not going how I imagined it would.
We need to talk.
You're all going to die.
There'll be no more than 500 million people on this planet. We've been planning this for 30 years.
What have you got a gun for?
It's for shooting people.
We'll make a great team, you and me. I can do stuff and you can keep an eye out.
Utopia returns this July on 4.
They had a real virus. Russian flu is real.
Yes, it's real. And they're going fat man on it, which is how they get a whole planet to take their vaccine. And if the results of the fake outbreak are modelled on the real thing, I think Spanish flu or worse.
And was that one bad, the Spanish one?
It killed 50 million people, Grant.
We have fabricated a worldwide flu scare. We are about to manufacture enough vaccine to inoculate the planet. But because you have kept us waiting, we now have just under 3 months in which to do that. It's just about possible.
I wanted her to talk. I thought
Jeff announces V-Day at 9 p.m. It's a starting pistol. It's a big red button with go on it.
What are you doing?
I'm calling Jeff.
I can fix this, please.
I'm telling him not to announce.
No, wait, let me think.
What is there to think about?
There isn't another version of this waiting in the wings. There isn't another Jeff or another flu scare or another vaccine or virus. This is it.
How many will die?
Typically, mortality in a flu virus comes in waves. We hope the vaccine will kick in on the first wave and the virus will be eradicated. First wave, 1,500 people. If it goes into the second wave, it'll almost certainly be tens of thousands. In a few days, I'm going to call either Paul or one of the other two. I'll give a command that only I know. And in about 90 days, that person will release the most deadly flu this world has ever seen. Everyone will take the vaccine. Everyone will willingly take Janus. It'll be chaos, it will, but in less than 100 years, there'll be no more than 500 million people on this planet. We will have created utopia.
Now, look, one of the things I'll say is they do discuss this as some type of bioweapon. I don't think anybody here on the website, on YouTube or on my website especially, believes that there's any type of bio attack. I think obviously it's all psychological. One of the things I've said since I started my channel is that everything in life is psychological. They psychologically convince us and herd us into these movements. It's all psychological. Nothing even ever really occurs. They create these things. They film news stories like they're actual movies. They're actually more cheaply done because the acting is actually worse. Although not to give any credit to the people in Hollywood, maybe they should bring them in the event of some of these to actually be the ones who are witnesses and stuff like that, because it's laughable at how bad the acting is. But one of the things too that's important to point out, in addition to depopulation and talking about how everybody's going to be forced into taking the shot, is the population, right? Keep the population under 500 million. What a surprise. Where have we heard that before? Oh, yes. The Georgia Guidestones. The Georgia Guidestones, which are protected, of course, and monitored under surveillance cameras. So while all these statues of these Confederate people are getting taken down, whether I care or not, I couldn't care less, to be honest with you. I don't believe in idols and statues and worshiping these things, besides the fact that all these guys are Masons anyway. But this is part of the plan, that they're allowing it, that the police are allowing it to happen. But one thing you won't see go down is the Georgia Guidestones, just like you won't see the Baphomet go anywhere. The Georgia Guidestones, people will say, well, there's nothing to do with race. Oh, no, it doesn't have anything to do with it. It just tells us that we need to keep the population under 500 million. So what does that tell you? Being that the population currently in the world is 7.59 billion. That's just according to a Google search. It's more than that now because it actually says 2018. So let's say it's over 8 billion, right? And they want to get it down to 500 million. Well, how do you think that's going to happen? Huh? How do you think it's going to happen? They don't need to create the bio weapon machine or any of that kind of stuff that people think is existing, which, yes, they do have the capability of doing it. I've covered Plum Island before. I've covered these bio weapons that they use. Biological warfare is completely real. Silent war is what it's called. However, nobody sees anything really going on here except for a psychological warfare. Not a silent warfare, but a psychological one, where people's minds are being attacked with fear and with panic and chaos, where people are fighting amongst each other at grocery stores because somebody walks within 6 feet of them. That's how engineered they've become. And by doing psychological warfare, they don't even need to do anything to convince people to take a shot where they don't even know what they're putting in their bloodstream. So how do you think it's going to go from 8 billion? You think there's going to be a huge world war? No. And why would America allow something like that to exist in this country on land? And somebody could say, well, it's private property. Well, what do you consider the property that's being torn down? That's not private property? I mean, the Baphomet statue is technically private property, but it wasn't the Ten Commandments statue that went up private property that the Satanists ran over and got away with, and nobody even got a slap in the wrist. Instead, they just came out and said, you know what? Instead of replacing it, we're just going to keep it down because the person was right who did it, because it's kind of just siding with one specific religion, and that's not fair. Then we have to side with everyone. It's that whole joke, which I covered years ago. But the show is utopia, right? What they're convincing people is what? That we can live in a utopian society right now without police. And I'm not saying that we couldn't. We could live in a utopian society, possibly, without the existence of whether you want to call them the Illuminati, whether you want to call it Bagelville, whoever you want to consider the Vatican at the top of the pyramid. Could we live technically in a utopian society? Possibly. There's always going to be people who are striving and lusting for power at the top. There always are going to be humans like that, unfortunately. But there's a better chance that it would happen if these people didn't exist and they weren't controlling us and manipulating us. Unfortunately, they are. They're doing the controlling and the manipulating. This thought of a utopian society because suddenly the police get removed is just to bring in martial law. That's it, nothing else. And the fact that there's TV shows like this, why do you think there's shows like this, right? That talk about, these plans. This is how they prepare people for when it happens. It's already sensationalized. Their brain is already programmed to expect it to happen in their subconscious mind without realizing what that even means. They're not in shell shock over it. They're just being compliant with it. Instead of going, huh? They're going, oh, okay, we better listen. We better follow the orders. Now, I've seen some predictive programming that's unbelievable, and obviously, I've covered it over and over on this channel. I mean, you could talk about the commercials recently with the C-19 telling everyone love and hope, right? You can go into the movies like Outbreak. You can go into movies with alien predictive programming, movies with civil unrest predictive programming, the Purge movies, predictive programming. Almost everything is predictive programming. That's the big joke with Hollywood. People think you could sit at your home, because all these, these trigger words they give people, like, you could do whatever you want. You could achieve your dreams. Yeah, I don't think I could play in the NBA. All right? But they convince everyone, you could do anything you possibly want if you work hard enough. So people sit there and they're like, I write a script. They send it in. It gets rejected by Hollywood. Like, I'm not good enough. It's not because you're not good enough. It's because it's controlled. They only fund these movies because they're propaganda. They only fund it because it's theirs predictive programming. And yes, I get it. It doesn't mean every single movie has predictive programming in it. There's comedies, there's rom-coms, there's millions of shows. I mean, there's so many shows that are there just to distract people and dumb them down for the most part. But these big films that come out, they always have the same script and the same story, right? And how funny this one is, this Utopia show talking about how they're going to depopulate and they're going to use this to convince everybody to go and take shots. Wow. But hey, this is just a review of the TV show, right? Wink, wink. I mean, you can't talk about this stuff. It's way too controversial to have an opinion other than the opinion that they tell you to have, especially on YouTube. It's what they call just a forced opinion, a one-voice narrative. Total, utter joke. I want to thank again the person who posted that on my website. I felt I needed to share it with everybody here on YouTube. Hopefully it doesn't get a strike. Probably will. But again, you can find me over my website at callfornuprising.com. If you haven't become a subscriber yet, I definitely recommend you do. There's some other good stuff going on over there that I'm going to be posting in regards to SRA, which is really one of the things I don't want to lose focus on, is exposing these Satanists. I know there's so much going on in the world, it's hard to just talk about anything else. But I'm still going to put a lot of energy and focus into that too. So go over there, check it out if you haven't. I want to thank those people who are there. And I want to thank the Patreons again who support this YouTube channel. It's because of you this channel continues on. So thank you so much. God bless all of you and your families.